I'm a European who loves learning about different countries, and so today we're gonna look at someone explaining why she loves Toronto and why, according to her, it's the best place to live in Canada. So, Asa, let's go ahead and see what she has to say about Toronto.
Welcome to my former home, my friends. Welcome to the biggest city in Canada, which is Toronto, or Toronto if you're actually from here. So I moved to this fabulous city about 10 years ago now and lived here for almost 7. I have been a resident of Calgary for the last few years just because I needed my mom's place as a home base as I was moving around the different parts of the world. So that is actually why I moved. And now that I'm moving even further away from Canada, I'm actually here in the city right now because I'm in the process of getting my immigration visa to move outside of Canada. But if I was to still live in Canada full time, this is definitely the city that I would have as my home base. Now, before I get into my reasons of why I think Toronto is so great, I do feel like I have to address the fact that last year I did make a video saying how you shouldn't move here. Things have gotten worse. But to be fair, that's not just Toronto, that's a lot of Canada. Unfortunately, there has been some really negative changes in the last few years. So I did want to be upfront with you guys that there are definitely things that I'm not happy about that have changed here in Toronto. It's not exactly the same city that I lived in when I first moved here. But even with the changes, to be honest, if I was to live somewhere in Canada, this is where I would choose.
So let's get into the top 10 reasons of why I would choose to live in Toronto above other big major cities in Canada, and why I think other people choose it as well. I think the first reason on the list is quite obvious and probably most people's main reason, which is opportunity. Toronto being the largest city in Canada, it obviously has the widest range of industries to choose from if you're looking to advance your career. Whether you're in finance, advertising, manufacturing, technology, the entertainment industry, retail, the list goes on. Many large companies choose to have their Canadian headquarters here, so of course, living in the city, you have more potential opportunities to land your dream job. But keep in mind that this also means that there is far more competition than there would be anywhere else in Canada for those top-level jobs.
Now, my second reason of why Toronto is my favorite city in Canada and why I chose to move here 10 years ago, it is definitely the pace of the city.
I wonder where she's from originally then, because I don't think she said so. If she did, I missed it, but yeah, that would be interesting to know. I'm sure she said it on her channel, but I just came across this video, so I have no idea where she's originally from. Maybe from the US?
Even though Vancouver too has a lot going on, so does Montreal, so does Calgary in its own way, but Toronto is definitely the fastest. And I think that's a universal thing that, especially when you are young, you are looking for the kind of place that has a lot going on, you know, where you can meet a lot of new people. And in Canada, Toronto is definitely that kind of place. That's why it makes me especially sad that in this day and age when the city has become so insanely expensive, I think it is pushing out a lot of younger people because it is just impossible to survive here unless you have a really well-paying job or like 3 roommates. So it would definitely break my heart if it gets to a point where all the young people are being pushed out of this city, and especially the creative types, you know, people like myself that technically moved here for the film industry or the music industry, you know, hoping to make a difference, hoping to do what they love, but it's just impossible to sustain yourself, especially when you're starting out, when things are so expensive.
My third reason for wanting to live in Toronto was definitely the pretty good weather conditions. I grew up in Saskatchewan, so maybe you can understand the kind of winter hell that I lived through for 18
Wait, so she is Canadian then?
years.
Yes.
Basically, all of the prairies are quite
This is
challenging
crazy.
to live in if you can't handle the cold. And then, of course, we have, the West Coast, BC, which usually is much milder and beautiful nature. But in Vancouver, their largest city, it is, of course, very rainy. And not only that, it is also
Did
really
hear about that.
overcast, and I am a sunshine person. I need sunshine to function optimally, so that's why I picked Toronto, where we do get quite a few sunny days in a year. The winter for Canada anyway is quite mild, with maybe 0 to 10 degrees in the winter months. Believe it or not,
That's actually, yeah, that's pretty nice. I would say that's pretty mild, because in another video I was wondering, okay, what's mild weather for Canada? But that sounds decent. That sounds like something I could cope with, because in the Netherlands it does get a little bit cold as well. So it doesn't sound too bad. I'm the same way as her, where sunshine is really important to me. I think more so even than the temperature it is, to a certain extent. Like, I would rather have a colder day with a blue sky and sunshine than like a hotter day where it's maybe humid and it's just cloudy. So that sounds good.
that's pretty good. Now, the fourth reason that I chose Toronto as the city to live in is definitely the public transit. Now, I know the TTC is not amazing, especially recently. It has certainly had and has its problems, but unfortunately, within Canada, we don't got a lot of better options. Unfortunately, Canada is just a very car-centric country, where if you move to like Saskatoon, Edmonton, and even Calgary, it is going to be very difficult to live in those kinds of places if you don't have a car. Personally, I don't like to drive and think having a car is just a huge unnecessary expense if a city is actually built properly for the people, if there's good city planning.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Again, on this point, I would rather take public transport than have to drive. Maybe that has something to do with me being from the Netherlands, but I know some people in the Netherlands, they do actually really love to drive and do so. But I feel like, having grown up there, that's something that I do look for in a place where you at least can just go around the city using public transport. So I think that is a huge benefit of Toronto.
So Toronto is really one of the few places alongside Vancouver and Montreal where you can get by on the public transit. So for anybody who feels the same, Toronto's not bad. Number 5 on my list is actually something that I miss so much when I'm not in the city, which is the food scene. Honestly, I think the caliber and diversity of restaurants in Toronto is greatly underrated, like even on a global scale. It wasn't until I moved here that I tried so many different cuisines that I had never had before. And most important in my particular case is I love brunch here. Like, brunch is such a Toronto.
I wonder what. Oh, that's bread? I only saw this part, and yeah, this makes it look like bread, but I was like, for a second there, I was like, is that a fried something? But yeah, that looks magnificent.
Such a Toronto thing on the weekends, and I haven't found any place that does it better.
This looks absolutely incredible. Cheers. Delish. So guys, before I forget, one thing that I made last year but strangely never let you know about here on my YouTube is that I actually made a Toronto Google Maps travel guide similar to the ones that I've made about Bangkok and also Bali, basically making a digital travel map that imports directly into Google Maps, so you have pins of all of my favorite restaurants, attractions, shopping, like all of the places
I might just look that up if I ever go there.
that you would really only know if you spent a long time in the city. So if you guys are interested in picking it up, it is only 20 Canadian dollars, which is like 15 US. So I'll have a link in the description. It has all my favorite places like Lady Marmalade, and I think you would find it really helpful if you are new coming to Toronto, or if you just want some more recommendations of great places in the city.
Number 6 on
Yeah, another thing I wanted to say about the food. I love tasting the typical, the local food of any place. I feel like that's such a nice, interesting and fun way to learn more about the culture. Like here, where I'm now in Vietnam, because I'm currently traveling around Southeast Asia with my boyfriend. We're in Hanoi, so I tried the egg coffee and banh mi's, and it was delicious. Even though I'm not a big coffee person, that was an experience, and that was really nice. And yeah, it's just such a fun way to delve more into cultures, and I especially love places that offer that more multicultural food scene if you're going to live there. So that sounds like a bonus, Toronto.
my list is the nature.
But I wonder how that is in different cities in Canada, because I assume they also have somewhat of a multicultural food scene, but I don't know if it's maybe more so in Toronto.
In Toronto. Believe it or not, for a big city, Toronto actually has quite a few green spaces like High Park, Trinity Bellwoods, Evergreen Brickworks, and of course we can't forget about Lake Ontario, which it is set on, just a beautiful boardwalk down by the water, and also there is Toronto Island that makes for a great day trip. So having access to those kinds of places definitely makes it easier to live in a concrete jungle.
Yeah, that's something I also look for in a place. If I decide to go there, or if I would decide to live somewhere, is definitely something I would look into, because I think I said it before in a video, but I love having nature around me. And so if I would live in a big city, that's definitely something that I would want accessible to me. And if I wouldn't have that, I would feel quite antsy, or yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I just want to go in nature and find that peace and hear the birds chirping while I'm sitting on a bench, maybe reading a book. So that's really nice.
Now, the next point on my list is definitely diversity. And I'm not talking about just population. It is very well known that Toronto is, an incredibly diverse and multicultural city, but I'm actually talking more about the neighborhoods of the city that really stand out to me. Yes, a lot of cities in Canada do have, interesting little neighborhoods as well, but nowhere do they range so wide as here in Toronto. Within a span of blocks, I can go from Chinatown to Koreatown, to Little Italy, where I am currently staying, Kensington Market. Like, the list goes on and on of all the different districts that this city has to offer, and that's why I lived here for so long, is because there is an unending amount of neighborhoods to explore.
Next on my list is film, art, and culture. As you guys know, I moved to Toronto for the film industry because it really is only Vancouver and Toronto where you could have a lot of opportunities in that regard. But even as someone who just appreciates film, art, music, culture, this is a great city to have such a wide variety of events, and Toronto is home to the Toronto International Film Festival, otherwise known as TIFF, where every year celebrities from all around the world come out to promote their films. So if you're somebody who's really
I didn't know about that.
into the arts like I am, or even just really big cultural events like, you know, Toronto Pride, for example, so much fun. There's just always something going on and so many things to see and do.
And lastly, my very favorite, you could say, thing about living in Toronto and why I will be back is the people. Of course, Canadians share many similarities no matter which city you go to or small town, whatever. But I will say that the people here in Toronto overall are my kind of people. Of course, I can't paint everyone with a broad stroke, but usually if you move to the biggest city in a country and you have a dream and you have a passion and you're here to actualize it, those are my kind of people. I've made some of my best friends that I've ever had in life in this city, and they are the reason that I will be back. And I think if you are a Canadian that is looking for a place to just really go for it, to try a new idea, this is probably the city that it is most likely to happen in. So even though it has its problems, as I've said in my...
I wonder if it's like the LA of Canada in that regard, where people go to make it and chase after their dreams, meet like-minded people in that way. Would that be a fair comparison? Let me know in the comments.
My last video, I still think Toronto is an amazing city. I am forever grateful for the time that I have had here and for all the lessons I have learned in the process.
Yeah, from this list that she mentioned, Toronto seems like a great place to live in Canada, and definitely has points that I would be looking for when it comes to nature, diversity, the food scene, the multicultural food scene. Yeah, it definitely, the weather, it has components of things that I will be looking for. So it seems like a great place to live in Canada if you also value those things. Let me know in the comments below. If you live in Toronto, what's your favorite thing about Toronto? And if you don't, let me know where you live instead and what your favorite thing is about that place.